Hello my friends, it's Choyer here, and over the last 8 years I've been making Warhammer content here on YouTube, but I noticed that it's been a while since I have uploaded any sort of behind the scenes kind of video, so I thought why not do one of those today. In this episode, I thought that I'll mention my top 5 favorite videos that we've made on the channel so far. This wasn't an easy task because all of them have been a pleasure to make, but in the end, some of them inevitably have more significance than others. Some because of what they meant for me at the time, or others because of what I learned from making them. If you've been watching the channel for some time now, you'll know that we make mostly Warhammer lore content, so if you were expecting some of that, then no worries, because we have a new video coming up tomorrow, and it will be about the Skaven Wars and the Empire of Warhammer Fantasy. That one was made using custom animations in a real engine, so I hope that you will enjoy it. In the meantime, I wanted to make this quick video to give you guys a little bit of an insight of what goes on behind the scenes when it comes to making these kind of lore videos. So what we'll be doing is that for this one I want to mention 5 videos or 5 moments that for different reasons have been important for the channel, including the video which got me monetized here on YouTube, the first one to get 1 million views, my first animation attempt using Unreal Engine to present the lore to you guys, a cool video about one of my favorite races in all of Warhammer, and the culmination of the Dr. Steffan Hoffman series. If you have been following the channel for some time now, you might recognize this fictional character, and if not, no worries, I'll get into that a little bit later in this video. Now, before we begin, I gotta tell you, it's been a wild journey so far, full of ups and downs, but overall it's been an amazing experience, especially thanks to all of you guys. And I don't say that lightly, your support from the very beginning up until this day has been amazing. I feel blessed to have such a great community of awesome people that also love Warhammer, and your comments, likes, shares, ideas, and even constructive criticism. It's all been amazing, and again, I thank you very much for your support so far. Now, before we get into the video, I want to mention that this list presented here is in no particular order. Each video has kind of like their own significance or importance to me, so just keep that in mind. And yeah, with that being said, let's get into the video. Alright, so the first video on this list is going to be the one we did on Queek Headtaker a while back. Again, like I said, this list is in no particular order, but I put this one first because of its significance and because it is the one that happened first in the chronological order of things. This was the video with which I reached the milestone of becoming a YouTube partner and got me finally monetized. So to give you some context, I started the channel back in 2018. I remember that I didn't have a job at the time, right? So I was looking out for something to do. And I asked myself, all right, what am I good at? What am I at least decent at? And video editing has always been something that has always caught my eye. And I'm always thinking about or watching YouTube tutorials about learning new techniques and everything. And I'm by no means some sort of professional video editor or anything like that, but I think that over the years I have come to a place where I can say confidently that video editing is one of the things that I enjoy the most. So back in 2018 I was thinking of all that, right? And like I said, I didn't have a job, so I thought to myself, all right, why not do some Warhammer videos as practice and at the same time to fill up my portfolio, because I wanted to be able to work for a company or an employer, a content creator or whatever, that will give me a job making videos, right? So I thought making Warhammer videos could be like potentially not a good idea, because you know many companies like to see your work more of kind of like a commercial kind of thing, and but at the same time I wanted to do the Warhammer lore videos because one, it was one of the things that I enjoyed the most, and another one because I wanted to be hired by someone who actually created this kind of content, right? I was searching really for a content creator to hire me and be able to tell stories and talk about lore, not necessarily about Warhammer, but you know, sci-fi, fantasy, or anything like that. So I remember that the channel started with 3 videos. It was, I think, Wolfric the Wanderer, an ambush battle, Hidden Horns, I think it was called, and another one that I cannot recall that time, but I do remember crafting the first 3 videos and then launching the channel all of a sudden with 3 videos included, and that's how it basically it all started. And from there I was hoping to again get a job, right? But the funny thing is that people started to like because I uploaded them to YouTube as well. I wanted to learn about YouTube, about the platform, not just as learn and grow as a video editor, but I wanted to try to become a content creator. And I said, well, if this works out, like this could actually become my job. That was plan A. It was very optimistic, by the way. At least that's how I saw it at that time. But I guess I had a little bit of luck on my side, because people were starting to leave comments, likes, and everything, and people were telling me, hey, I like this particular style, I like this video, right? You should tackle this character, you should talk about this faction, and you should cover this battle, and so on, right? So I thought, well, as long as I don't have a job, I will keep doing this. And yeah, I took it from there, and it was kind of like a snowball, right? Where I started releasing weekly videos. I remember that in the early days I had a schedule, and it was one video every Sunday. The thing is that eventually I started noticing that longer videos perform better, and I started to enjoy making longer videos, because the more I learned about Warhammer, the more I learned about editing techniques and so on, I wanted to keep like pushing myself, and so I started to make longer and longer videos. But over time, I noticed that I wasn't really, because I was taking very long nights. I was editing my ass off. Like I remember many times where I had to pull out all-nighters just to be able to deliver the video on Sunday. Over time, it became unbearable for the fact that I couldn't keep up with the schedule that I had like imposed on myself, right? So that's when I decided to stop doing that, keep making Warhammer content, but release the videos whenever they're ready. So because again, they were each time longer, and each one of them was taking me longer and longer to produce, because I wanted to add all these new effects. I wanted to hire. I've always hired a voice actor. Like maybe if you have noticed by now, English is not my first language. My first language is Spanish, but I think I can read and write pretty well in English, as well as speak it, but more of a casual conversation, like this one we're having right now, right? So, but for the lore content, for the main content for the channel, I knew right from the beginning that I wanted to hire a proper voice actor to do the videos, right? And now that you often hear Adam, or you often hear Scrobasaurus, they are the main narrators for the channel, and sometimes you will often hear some other narrators that do quotes or some impersonation of characters or whatever, right? So yeah, that's basically how it all started, and I guess the rest is history. I mean, here we are now. I still don't have a job, like a proper job. I take on projects from time to time, but this is my main. This is the main thing that I do all day for the last 8 years, and it's been amazing because, in a way, it has allowed me to grow, not only as a person. I don't know. I think that sounds a little bit cliche, but yeah, it has taught me about discipline, hard work, and all that. But at the same time, as a content creator, as a video editor, the thing that I was aspiring to do in the first place, it really got me developed in a way that I enjoy making this kind of thing. You know, for me, it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like a chore. Sometimes I gotta confess, I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to edit today, or I don't want to write about this, or this topic it's not that really interesting to me. But at the same time, these are the things that when I tackle them and when I say, okay, no, you know what, let's do it. I remember one time, for example, that I was kind of like afraid of covering Karl Franz and Archaon the Everchosen, because I thought to myself, oh my god, these are so important in the lore that I didn't really want to fuck up any interpretation that I made of them, right? So again, but I pushed through, and I've learned so much ever since. But I think I'm deviating a little bit myself over here, but I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of context on how the channel started, right? So And of course, I wanted to give you a massive thank you to you guys, because when Queek happened and I was able to finally monetize the channel, I said to myself, well, what if this could become my actual job, right? What if I keep doing this until I get bored, or I can no longer do that for some reason, or whatever. But here we are 8 years later, and I just wanted to give a massive thanks to you guys, because you are, as cliche as it may sound, you are the main reason why I'm here right now, and why I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to make content for you guys. All right, so that's a little bit of a backstory of how the channel has started. I think I'm already making this a little bit longer than it should, so let's get back into the video. So speaking about trying to present the lore in the best way I can, and talking about learning new sound effects, video effects, and so on, I cannot go by and not mention this particular video. This one was about the Death Guard Legion of Warhammer 40k. It was my actual first attempt to present the lore using Unreal Engine animations, using my own miniatures. These were digitalized from their real physical versions to a digital format, so that way it allowed me to use them within the software, to use effects such as lighting, smoke, fog, explosions, and so on. And by no means do I consider myself an expert in the matter. In fact, I do consider myself a beginner, because Unreal Engine is such a complex beast to learn. There are so many things that you can do within the software, and it has so many variables that you can play with, that at the same time that it gives you that creative freedom to do all that, but at the same time you have to actually learn how to play with all those tools, right? So this particular video was a delight to make, because I got to put in practice everything that I've learned so far. It was voiced by Scrobasaurus, one of the main voice actors for the channel. It also features a couple of other voice actors that made some of the quotes for characters within the video. And for this one, I also hired the help of 2 video editors to help me make some of the chapters in this episode. And in my opinion, it ended up being great. I remember feeling very grateful for all the responses and positive comments that we got for this one. Many people praised the use of my own Death Guard miniatures to showcase the lore, the use of animations, and so on. Unfortunately, in terms of views, it didn't perform as well as I would have expected, and I think this is because this channel is mainly focused around Warhammer Fantasy and not Warhammer 40k. I don't know, this is a theory I have, but I have my doubts on that, because although I have explored 40k topics before, and some of those videos have performed really well, but many others haven't, but who knows. I guess the algorithm has its own way of doing things, and all I can do is learn and try to do my best for the next one. In any case, this particular episode remains as one of my all-time favorites, and really one of the videos that I'm most proud of. In case I haven't mentioned, I'll be leaving the list with the respective links in the description below, so if you want to watch any of the videos mentioned here, feel free to look it up so you can check out the videos for yourself if you so desire. Moving on, it's time to revisit the most popular video of the channel so far. It is the Origins of the Skaven, a video that I made back in 2019, and no other video has come close to ever topping this one. Even with all the new effects, all the new visuals, all the new kind of like the way of doing things that I have, all the new techniques that I've learned so far, all the new sound effects and so on, there's no other video thus far that has been able to top this one and get the amount of attention that this one did back in the day. I think it was a combination of good timing, the fact that no other channel had covered this particular topic at that time, a good thumbnail, the tension that the story itself transmits, and I guess a little bit of luck. And when I mean that it got a lot of views, I'm not talking about Mr. V's kind of numbers, right? Or that it became a viral sensation or anything like that. But at least for the Book of Choyer channel, it has been the one that has got the most eyeballs on it. It's very interesting that, at least for this particular channel, the Skaven have always been a popular topic amongst you. And in a way, it doesn't really surprise me. The Skaven are a very interesting and unique race, if you ask me. Not only within Warhammer, but in fantasy in general, all there to say. They are this very sneaky, dirty and evil race, but in a way funny and weird too. So I'll be more than happy to keep making content about them from time to time, as there are also other interesting topics, locations, factions, and characters to cover. Moving on to the next one, this is about the Tyranids of Warhammer 40k, one of my all-time favorite races. I even do have my own small collection of miniatures and I love everything about them really. This particular episode tells the story of a man and its crew that got trapped within their ship and they are suddenly swallowed whole by a Tyranid bioship. Then he quickly realizes what is actually happening and that death is inevitable. One of those terrible and grim stories that we often hear about in Warhammer 40k, but actually getting to portray that grim situation through visuals, sound effects and music is one of the things that I enjoy the most about making videos. And by this, I'm not talking about necessarily bad situations or horror scenes, but I mean that it is always a good challenge to try to transmit something to the viewer, right? In this case, it was horror, but in others, it can be, I don't know, joy, helplessness, anger, desperation, and so on. So for me, this was a particularly great challenge to tackle. I got the inspiration from a book called The Last Hunt, in which this situation is portrayed, and I remember the feeling I got when actually reading that part myself. So for this one, we commissioned an art which basically portrayed a man trapped inside a bioship, and then we animated it to give it more of a sense that it was a living thing that actually breathed. Overall, it was a delight to make, and I still remember this one as being one of my all-time favorites. Alright, so speaking about trying to showcase different feelings and situations within the Warhammer world, we have this specific video. This one is a little bit more unusual, as for this particular video we try to portray the happiness and relief that one of our fictional characters, Dr. Steffan Hoffman, experienced when he got back home after his adventures across the Warhammer world. To me, it was great to be able to finally do a scene or a chapter in which some sort of happiness is shown, you know, because mainly Warhammer being the grim setting that it is, you often hear the majority of stories being about war and tragedy. And that's alright, I mean, that is what Warhammer is all about. It is even implied in the name, right? So in the end, for me to be able to try to portray a scene of release or happiness for a character to be back home was very refreshing. So the main idea for Dr. Steffan Hoffman came from Lo, a great guy from Brazil I used to work with back in the day. And I remember he pitched this idea of exploring the different monsters and beasts and creatures of Warhammer, but from the perspective of a fictional character that we will create, right? This, which ended up being Dr. Steffan Hoffman. When I heard that idea, I was happy about it. I was on board, but at the same time, I had my concerns because I was wondering how we could integrate this different character in a setting that already has a lot of established characters in established lore, right? So what we ended up doing is making this character a scholar in the first place, so you know he wouldn't be like an archmage or a ferocious warrior or anything like that. He was just a regular scholar, and of course we wouldn't be pitching him against Archaon the Everchosen or I don't know Kavzar or any other major character, because that's not the point, you know. We wanted to make this character to be a scholar that had all these different insights into the lands and provinces of the Empire, the monsters and creatures and everything, but always kind of like rounded. So it was more of a storytelling vehicle for us, because in a way that gave us a lot of creative freedom, but at the same time we had to be mindful and respectful of the boundaries or the established lore that is already written. So yeah, in the end, that's how it was born originally, and in the end, we have already published two seasons. The first one being centered around the monsters and monsters and creatures of Warhammer Fantasy, and the second season it was all about the lands and provinces of the Empire. Both series have been great. They all make up like 7 episodes the first season, and like 12 or 14 episodes the second season, if I remember correctly. But I'm very glad that you guys loved that series especially well, because there are many comments that still to this day ask when the Dr. Steffan Hoffman is going to be making his return and stuff like that. So yeah, and since we are on that topic, I I wanted to let you guys know that we are planning on making another season. Although I don't know the topics yet or when it's going to be published, but maybe you guys can help me with that. Maybe if you guys can give me ideas on what topics you would like to see covered on the channel, and if they could be a very well fit with Dr. Steffan Hoffman to have him like explore those particular topics, right? So if you have any ideas, please let me know, because I'm actually looking for ideas or topics to cover, right? I know that Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Fantasy both are very complex and with their lore, and they have a lot of topics to cover: battles, characters, factions. You could go on and on for years, but yeah, if you have any particular one that you would like to see here on the channel, let me know. And yeah, with that, I wanted to show you guys a little bit of how Dr. Steffan Hoffman was made and why it was made in the first place. So yeah, that's how Steffan Hoffman was born, Doctor of Biology and Zoology from the University of Null. The character itself is narrated by Adam, and so far it's been an amazing series. For now, I want to leave you guys with the actual scene from the final episode of the first season, in which Dr. Steffan Hoffman returns home, so you can watch it yourselves. But before I do, I wanted to let you know once again that I'm grateful for you guys. I wanted to give you a massive thanks for watching up until this point and for your support so far through all these years. I hope to see you tomorrow in the episode that is set to be published then. This one is going to be about the Skaven Wars, and the reason I'm excited for this one is because I have tried my hand once again with some Unreal Engine animations that you will see scattered across the video. This is my first time doing this for a Warhammer Fantasy lore episode, so I'm looking forward to your feedback and constructive criticism for this one. Of course, I hope that you will enjoy it, but if you see some aspect that could be improved or you have an idea for a potential future episode, let me know. I'll be reading the comments and I'll be trying to answer as many of your questions as possible. And alright, so with that, I'll leave you guys with the final chapter of the first season of Dr. Steffan Hoffman's adventures. See you guys tomorrow, and thank you.
My eyes took in the battlefield, the slain bodies of strange creatures scattered among the fallen mercenaries. It was a scene of grim triumph, a battle won, but at a terrible cost. A strong hand grabbed my arm, and I turned to find a dwarf looking at me with concern. His eyes were filled with wisdom of experience. He was bloodied, but his voice was gentle.
Glad to see you were alive, you mad lad. You shouldn't be wandering this far north. We fought off the few creatures that remained, but you seem to need food and medicine. We'll take care of you while we take you back home, back to civilization.
The world is a place of wonder and horror, and I had glimpsed both in my quest for knowledge. But in the end, I had held firm to my beliefs, resisted the allure of chaos, and come out stronger for it. As our wagon creaked and jostled on a southbound road, my thoughts wandered to the comfort of home. I could almost feel the warm embrace of my city, its familiar streets, and the welcoming faces of friends. In my mind, I savoured the first bite of a hot, freshly baked loaf of bread and the rich aroma of a well-cooked meal. The journey had taken its toll, and the simple pleasures of life had never seemed so luxurious. But more than anything, I looked forward to finally trying Bugman's beer. Its fame had spread far and wide, and I had promised myself that taste upon my return. I could almost hear the clink of the tankard, feel the froth on my lips, and taste the rich, complex flavours dancing on my tongue. The journey would continue. More challenges would surely come. But I knew who I was and what I believed in. The ruinous powers had tried to claim me, but I had faced them and emerged unbroken. And so the grand pattern of life would remain a mystery. But it was a mystery I would continue to explore, with wonder, excitement, and a heart uncorrupted. I am Steffan Hoffman, Doctor of Biology and Zoology of the University of Null, and this has been my journey so far.